That's why we have to continue to support police and their enforcement efforts. That's why prosecutors have to step up and prosecute people to the fullest extent of the law, and judges need to understand to meet the moment when it comes to bond and sentencing, so that violent individuals who are committing crimes in the city of Columbus and threatening public safety are met with significant accountability. Applaud.
Alrighty guys, so the video for today, we're going to be talking about how the city of Columbus, or elected officials in the city of Columbus, have now taken a hard stance towards crime. They want to support the police's enforcement efforts, make sure that people are prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, make sure that judges are following through, blah, 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 blah. The reason I'm making this video today is because the statements these politicians are making now stands in stark contrast to statements that they were making just a few months ago, to be honest. One of the statements that I kept hearing from the mayor of Columbus, Ohio, Mayor Andrew Ginther, was he was saying things like, we can't arrest our way out of this. But now that murder has come to the short north of Columbus, Ohio, the entertainment district, the place where when people come to town, this is where we want them to go and eat and enjoy themselves. Now that place is experiencing the same chaos that many of our downtrodden neighborhoods have been for the last 3 years in the city of Columbus. But now that violence has come to the short north, it's time to change our tune. It's a time to enforce crime and support law enforcement. What I did was, there was a press conference the other day, and I've got some clips from it, and I'm going to what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this video here in a minute. I took a bunch of clips from the press conference. It was about 45 minutes. I've reduced it down to about 6 minutes and 30 seconds. And I've broken it down to kind of 3 segments that these local officials all chose to talk about. The first phase in this violence prevention that they're choosing is going to be to punish law-abiding citizens and minority-owned food trucks. The second step is going to be strict enforcement of the law by Columbus police officers. And then the third thing that they are doing and demanding is they want the state to act on gun control measures. And they're making some outlandish claims about what it is that state lawmakers are doing. And they're trying to put the blame for this crisis on state lawmakers rather than accepting the blame for themselves. So how did we get here? I don't know if I'm in the right spot here. So a couple of years ago, 2020 to be exact, the city of Columbus came out with this magical, mystical unicorns and rainbows plan called Reimagining Public Safety. And if you just type in Columbus, Ohio, Reimagine Safety, you will get this webpage. Let me get my face in a different spot here so you guys can see properly. And I'm going to read a little bit of the webpage from the Reimagining Public Safety portal on the City of Columbus webpage. It says, in 2020, Columbus City Council launched the Reimagine Safety Initiative after the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis led to nationwide protests. With thousands of written statements, emails, speakers, blah, 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 the 3 priorities were alternative crisis response, investing in violence prevention, and investing in a better, more accountable division. Let's see. Then it says historical achievements such as the Civilian Review Board. City Council seeks to outline a path forward for a just and equitable city, passing new legislation that reimagines public safety in Columbus. Each initiative is crafted with residents' input, will support Council's ultimate goal of healing, rebuilding, and strengthening Columbus. So that is the whole reimagining safety. And what they're doing is the 3 priorities were alternate response, investing in violence prevention, and investing in a better, more accountable division. They're saying that if we hold police officers accountable and that we coddle criminals, the city will become more safe. Well, this has been going on for the last 3 years, and this has not worked. And violence, as a matter of fact, has gone up every year since that occurred. And now these city officials are completely changing their tune. So what I did, like I said before, is there was a press conference the other day, and I have edited some clips from it, and we're going to watch that now. The first step, like I said, is going to be the first little piece of the mayor's plan, how he plans to cut down on this violence. I'm going to get myself out of the way here, and we're going to watch his portion of this speech.
Starting Friday night, midnight, is everybody's bedtime in the short north. Mama used to say nothing good happens after midnight, and it's time for us all to step up and do our part to make sure we keep everybody safe. We're asking all businesses to voluntarily shut down at midnight. This is for Friday through Sunday only. At the same time, I'll be issuing an executive order mandating that food trucks cease their operations at midnight as well. Council, under the leadership of Council President Hardin, will be taking on legislation this coming Monday, to codify that order.
Alrighty, so like I said before, the first step of the mayor's new plan for reducing the amount of violence and chaos that has overtaken downtown Columbus is to punish law-abiding citizens. He wants to request that restaurants and bars close down at 12 midnight. What he's doing is he's saying, you know what, restaurants and bars, I know that you are not the ones out there committing crimes. These crimes are actually being committed by a small number of violent individuals, but we are going to ask that you stop earning money. We're going to take away your ability to pay your bills because some other people have been acting out. The next thing that he's going to do is he's issuing an executive order, and he's also going to demand that city council take up legislation to change the hours that food trucks are allowed to operate in the short north area of Columbus, Ohio. What he is doing when he's saying this, he's actually punishing minority-owned businesses, because the majority of people who own these food trucks, these are not rich old white guys. These are minorities. Minority-owned businesses are the ones that are paying the price for this. And I want to remind everybody of what we were being told in 2020 during the riots, during the Summer of Love, was that, you know, the police were being heavy-handed. They should not have gone down there and just started macing the crowds, throwing tear gas to clear people out of the streets and everything, because the majority of these protesters were peaceful protesters, just trying to take advantage of their First Amendment rights. And it was the actions of very few violent actors that were making them look bad. Therefore, the police were in the wrong for taking actions against these large crowds. Now we can see that the mayor is doing the exact same thing that he in the past has criticized police officers about. If you ask me, taking money out of the hands of business owners, particularly these minority-owned food carts, this is not the way to fight violence in your city. I'll just leave it at that. The next part is going to be, we're going to talk about strict enforcement. And once again, I'm going to get out of the way, or we're going to listen to, I believe it's the mayor, the chief, city council president, and then city attorney is Zach Klein. Those are the people you're going to hear from in this clip.
CPD will also be stepping up enforcement and manpower, resources, and patrols in the area until further notice.
Today I stand here with the Short North Alliance and city leaders to announce safety measures that will take place in the Short North this weekend, along with new strict enforcement measures. If you come here to disrupt and engage in illegal behavior, this is your notice. You will be held accountable to the fullest extent that the law allows. You've been put on notice and warned. Our officers are prepared to strictly enforce illegal, unruly behaviors, which include disorderly conduct, inducing panic, obstructing a city right-of-way, community noise, street racing, unnecessary schooling of tires, underage drinking, and violation of open container laws. We will also be enforcing the city's curfew law. This means if you are between the ages of 13 and 17, you will need to be off the streets from midnight to 4:30 a.m.
We will enforce the law against all those who are misbehaving in every neighborhood. The police chief talked about that. Outside street parties and drag races are wrong in all of our neighborhoods. The loud engines and stereos, the 3- and 4-wheelers running through our streets and parking lots like they were out east last week is wrong, and it has to stop. Every shooting in our city is unacceptable, and it has to end now. This council believes that safety is a 3-part strategy: prevention, intervention, and enforcement.
Who have a heightened level of concern about gun violence and problems plaguing their neighborhoods relating to vehicular traffic, takeovers, ATVs, loud mufflers, and how that bleeds all into a threat of public safety. That's why we have to continue to support police and their enforcement efforts. That's why prosecutors have to step up and prosecute people to the fullest extent of the law, and judges need to understand to meet the moment when it comes to bond and sentencing, so that violent individuals who are committing crimes in the city of Columbus and threatening public safety are met with significant accountability. So from my perspective in the city attorney's office, we're going to continue our strong partnership with the Division of Police and its promotion of Operation Wheels Down and Operation Burnout. If you are driving your car recklessly, if you have a loud muffler or stereo that's disrupting the quality of life in our neighborhoods, this neighborhood or anywhere else in Columbus, if you're engaging in a street takeover, doing wheelies, threatening public safety, and of course adding alcohol, drugs, and guns into the mix, and you are caught, you will receive absolutely no plea bargain. You will eat 100% of the penalties and fines, including jail time if applicable, and we will take your car as evidence as long as your case is pending. And then you will go down to the impound lot and you will pay every single dollar to get that car out. We are not messing around, because this threatens every single person across the city of Columbus.
There's a lot to take in there. One thing that I want to point out just briefly, I caught this watching the video along with you guys this time that I did not catch before. The city council president, I'll pull up his picture again. It's this little black guy right here. That's the city council president, Shannon Hardin. He said that this council believes that preventing violence has 3 parts or whatever. He says prevention, intervention, and enforcement. But for some reason, the 3 priorities of Reimagine Safety are alternative response, investing in violence prevention, and investing in a better, more accountable division. So which one is it? Is it making sure that you hold police accountable? Is that the key to ending violence? Or is it actually prevention, intervention, and enforcement? Is it actually enforcement of the law? It's an interesting thing. So if you listened to what they had to say, and it's funny, this graphic was just put out by the Division of Police today. They were saying, look, we're going to be downtown, and these are the things that we're going to be enforcing: disorderly conduct, inducing panic, obstructing the right-of-way, community noise, street racing, unnecessarily squealing of the tires, violation of open container. Let's see, did they put... Yeah, disorderly conduct is right there at the top. I guess aside from inducing panic, the way that you could describe all of these different crimes that they're going to be enforcing are nonviolent misdemeanors. We were told over the last few years that, arresting people for a nonviolent misdemeanor is not the way to prevent violence. I was told as a police officer that if I thought arresting someone for a nonviolent crime was going to make society better, that I was a freaking moron. And here are the policies that the Columbus Division of Police has been putting in place for the last few years. This one, July 2020, says Columbus makes permanent its policy on not arresting nonviolent defendants with warrants. So if you have a warrant for something like drug abuse or possession of criminal tools, or disorderly conduct, or you have a warrant for an OVI, driving while intoxicated. These kind of warrants, the Division of Police put out an actual policy saying, if you have a warrant for this crime, you will not be arrested. We will give you a new court date and just set that aside. What that did was, when officers show up on the scene of a disturbance that is maybe a loud and ruckus party, and they want to make the party calm down, they might start running people for warrants. And if they find people with these nonviolent misdemeanor warrants, and they start arresting them, that tends to shut a party down. It's a very effective tool. It's also a good tool in situations like domestic disputes and stuff, where if an officer shows up to a house and the man and woman are having this like loud ruckus argument and everything, and there's no violence that has occurred, but the officers do feel like if they leave both parties in the house, there will be violence, but also they don't have the authority to make one person leave, they'll start running people for warrants. If one of those people has a warrant, they can take them to jail. So if you have an unpaid parking ticket and you're in a domestic dispute, you might get taken to jail because the police don't want to come back to that house later on that night and deal with a nonviolent situation that became violent after they left. This takes tools away from the tool bag of police officers, because this is what City Council thought was the right way to go when they reimagined public safety. Here's another article. This is from November of 2020. And this is an actual directive change for Columbus police officers. And it says, sworn personnel, let's see, no complaint after. Okay, let's see. Basically, what this one is with here it is. Nonviolent misdemeanors. Sworn personnel shall request a summons be issued in lieu of arrest for nonviolent misdemeanors when the identity of the violator is known or can be determined, and the violator's appearance in court is reasonably assured. Sworn personnel shall seek supervisory approval to arrest and slate individuals for nonviolent misdemeanor offenses. So this is a rule that says you will not arrest people for nonviolent misdemeanors. So in November of 2020, they put out a policy that says you shall not arrest people for many of the same things that are listed on this page. Things like open container, street racing, noise complaints. Can you imagine in the summer of love, in the months following 2020, if officers were out there arresting people for community noise and obstructing a city right away. So imagine for a moment, if you will, that there's a group of people playing loud music blocking a street in 2020. This is something that we saw a lot of, and we were told these people are peaceful protesters. But now you can get yourself arrested for obstructing the right of way, community noise, squealing tires, open container, or disorderly conduct. They have completely changed their tune. Here's another thing that happened in the city of Columbus is that in 2020, the city dismissed thousands of cases in the interest of community justice. This was all immediately following the Summer of Love. I now have an opinion piece written by Zach Klein. Who is Zach Klein? Zach Klein is this guy right here in the center of my screen. Zach Klein is the city attorney for the city of Columbus. And in December of 2020, he sent an op-ed to the Washington Post, which is a fairly significant publication. And the title of it is Nonviolent Offenders Need Help, Not Jail. That is what my city is giving them. And right down here it says Zach Klein is the city attorney and prosecutor in Columbus, Ohio. So in 2020, this guy right here, Zach Klein, was saying, nonviolent offenders don't need jail time. They don't need to be punished. They need help. They need a hand up. That's what my city is doing for them. The response to this attitude, where with this, I'll pull this back up here because this is one of my favorites, this reimagining of public safety in Columbus, Ohio, the response to that has been that violent crime has risen ever since then. There was a small dip in 2022 for unknown reasons, but I can tell you that it has begun accelerating again in 2023. So the next phase of the speech, and this is going to be a quick one, was actually gun control. So let's go up here. And so this part, I'll get it out of the way again. We're calling this gun control, and it blame Republicans. And this one is very quick.
The state legislature, as the mayor talked about, is flooding our communities with guns and letting them anyone carry them. It's truly sick, actually.
All right, like I said, that is a very short one. So he said that the state legislature is now flooding our community with guns and letting anyone carry them. It is truly sick, actually. This is where, this is a 45-minute presentation. And over the previous 30 minutes or so, what they've done is completely reverse course on their reimagined safety. This idea that we will no longer be arresting and slating people for nonviolent misdemeanors. The idea that, initially what the policies that were put out by the city of Columbus and these officials that are on my screen right now was that, a lot of police officers believe in the broken windows theory of policing. The broken windows theory of policing is that if there's a neighborhood where there's a lot of minor crimes happening, and that violent crime follows those minor crimes. If you go out and you start enforcing the law and like a lot of these petty crimes like parking complaints, speeding, selling single cigarettes on the side of the road, selling alcohol out of the trunk of your car. That's one of the things that the city councilman president said during his speech. If you go out and you enforce all of these low-level crimes, it kind of puts the word out there that police officers are not going to put up with your shit on the street. And if you want to commit crimes, you should not do them here. That, for some reason, in 2020 got labeled as a racist policy because it has a disproportionate enforcement effect on people of color. That's what we have been told. Well, now that there's violence in the area of town where these people get their political donations from, it must be stopped. And the way we're going to stop it is strict enforcement. But I kind of went on a tangent there. What he said right there was that state legislators are flooding our community with guns and they're letting anybody carry them. It's just sick, really. Well, I would like City Council President Shannon Hardin to provide me with the proof that state legislator is actually providing his community with guns. I would like the proof that Republicans in the state legislature are handing guns to people that live in his community. To the second point where he said they're letting anybody carry them. They're saying that there's this irresponsible gun legislation in the state of Ohio that lets literally anybody carry a gun without restriction. Well, I pulled up this is from an actual defense attorney's webpage in Columbus, Ohio. And these are the restrictions in Ohio upon people who want to open carry or conceal carry a firearm without a permit. So you must be 21 years of age. You must have lived in the state of Ohio for at least 45 days. You must not be under indictment, charged with, or convicted of a felony. You must not be a fugitive from justice. What this means is that you can't have any warrants for your arrest. You can't be convicted of resisting arrest in the last 10 years, not be charged with or indicted for a violent misdemeanor offense within the previous 3 years. So this is things like if you've been charged with assault, aggravated menacing, where you're like threatening to hurt people, domestic violence threats, stalking, a lot of these kinds of charges, if you have even been charged or indicted with these crimes in the previous 3 years, you are not permitted to carry a firearm in the state of Ohio. This does not say convicted of a crime. This says charged with a crime. You can't be convicted of negligent assault with a deadly weapon, charged or indicted with negligent assault with a deadly ordinance, charged or convicted of or under indictment for any drug-related offense. So if you have been charged with or convicted of or are under indictment for any drug-related offense, you cannot carry a firearm in the state of Ohio. not be fundamentally incompetent or deficient, not have any protection order placed against you. So this is a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different things that would prohibit somebody from being allowed to carry a firearm. That's very different than what he said when he said they're allowing just anybody to carry a gun. It's sick, really. So at the end of the day, I think it's clear. Let me get my face out of the way so you can see Mr. Harden here. The one thing that is explicitly clear to me is that the elected officials in the city of Columbus have completely changed their tune when it comes to enforcing the law. So first they had to reimagine safety. Then they said, people with nonviolent misdemeanor warrants will not be taken to jail. Then they said people who are committing nonviolent misdemeanors will not be arrested. Then they went ahead and dismissed 4,000 cases in the interest of justice. And then the city attorney came out and gave an op-ed where he said nonviolent offenders need help, not jail. Now we have a situation where they're saying, if you are out there committing any of these nonviolence offenses, aside from inducing panic, we are going to arrest you. We're going to charge you, arrest you, impound your car, and prosecute you to the ultimate extent that the law allows. If that is not a 180, I don't know what is. The really sad thing and the most unfortunate part about this whole thing is that the people who are responsible for these policies and the people who are responsible for the violence that has been happening in Columbus, Ohio for the last few years are the three people on your screen right here. The three people least likely to be held accountable for the violence that has occurred in Columbus over the last 3 years are the same three people that are on your screen right now. I hear a lot about how the system is broken and criminal justice system is broken. I agree with that to a large degree, but the reason it's broken is something I'll disagree with you on. These three men right here are some of the worst examples of our broken system. I think that's all I'm going to say today. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to you soon.